This episode is sponsored by Spice Dog Provisions. They sent me a bunch of amazing flavors, some that I don't think are on the market yet that I tried on my new show Unboxed. That's you can find on YouTube, youtube.com/Anthony Rogers. Also, these sauces are fucking awesome. They have some classic flavors like ghost ship and like an everyday sauce and stuff like that. Um, and they're just really good sauce. So go to spicedogprovisions.com and tell them Anthony Rogers sent you.
I'm Al Globus. I worked for 39 years as a contractor at NASA Ames Research Center. And I spent at least some of that time doing space settlement design, space settlement development, trying to build places for people to live in space should they choose to do so. And that will be part of the Anthony Rogers Show, which is starting right now.
You are now listening to the best show in the universe, The Anthony Rogers Show. You probably wish that this was your show, but it's not. It's The Anthony Rogers Show. Tell all of your friends to listen to this show.
Welcome back to the greatest show in the entire universe. Today we have a legend, a researcher from NASA, a retired researcher from NASA, Al Globus. How you doing?
Good. Yourself?
Not too bad, man. Where are you at in your background? Is that the Inception?
That is a small space settlement.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the size of the very, very earliest space settlements. The reason you can see all that curvature?
Yeah.
Well, that's because this thing is rotating to provide with artificial gravity. So, you know, when you see the astronauts in the International Space Station, the ISS, they're always floating around, right? But these guys, they aren't. And that's because of the rotation. Rotates fast enough so it feels as if you were living in a gravity environment, which is really important for the kids because they need to grow up with strong bones and muscles.
No, it's awesome. I knew that theory of the spinning thing, but that looks way cooler than anything I've seen. Like that looks and what they're doing, man. That looks awesome.
Brian Versteeg did this image and the others. He's a really, really good space artist.
That's cool, man. I like that a lot. I'm glad I asked that. Actually, it just looked cool at first. I'm like, now I feel like I learned a lot. But like I want to get to like questions from people because like you had an overwhelming amount of questions. I from like in the last, I mean, for the amount of time I've had it up, you know, it's like I probably only had that up for like 30 minutes, and like a lot of people are interested in like just like your field of research, man. Honestly, and some are pretty serious, some are kind of like ridiculous, but I'm gonna ask whatever. It's like this one's kind of good. I like this one. It's like Brandon's asking like ask about recent UFOs. It's gone mainstream, and the government is expected to produce a report in June. Lots of videos have been coming out from the military, and there's evidence of one UFO going into water. Ask them about this. Basically, that's what they're asking about. Like, what are your thoughts on like aliens and all that stuff?
Well, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the aliens are here and taking us over or anything like that. But there's something you really can't ignore, and that is in this galaxy. Our best estimate is that there are 300 million planets in the habitable zone of one or another galaxy star. And we know for a fact that one of those planets is spacefaring because it's us. You know, we can get into space. We do it all the time, every day. Well, not every day, but most days. So it's really hard to say, oh, we have one, and we got 300 million tries at getting two. That can't happen, right? So it seems to me that the odds of alien species in this galaxy are pretty good. Okay. Now that said, a UFO is exactly what it means: an unidentified flying object. There are lots of unidentified flying objects. They're not necessarily alien intelligences here to wipe us out. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of UFOs are not that because we know what they are. They're unidentified flying objects. Okay. Now, I think this is actually kind of important because if we choose to expand throughout the solar system and eventually throughout the galaxy, we may eventually run into an alien species, okay, that's spacefaring. And I mean that if that entity, if those people, if you will, they're not people actually, if those aliens are very much like us, we're going to be in big trouble because we have a terrible record of coming in to some place, wiping out everybody who gets in the way, and pushing people around. Okay, and if advanced spacefaring civilization does that to us, if they did it now, we wouldn't stand a chance. Now, after several thousand years of development, maybe we would stand a chance, or maybe we get lucky and the aliens we run into are the quote nice aliens, right? And have no particular desire to do us in as long as we don't do something stupid like irritate them. But I think that we have to recognize, I hate to recognize that many times. Well, actually, let me say, Buckminster Fuller, I think, had the right idea about aliens. And he said, sometimes I think that we are alone in the universe, that this is the only life, the only civilization. And that's an amazing thought. And other times I think there's a whole community of civilizations out there that someday we will make contact and it'll be wonderful. And that's an amazing thought.
That's great. No,
so no matter how you come down on it, it's amazing.
No, I agree, man.
And if you come down and if we could try to hide on our planet and hope that they don't find us, if the nasties are out there. But we've already given away our location. We've already sent I Love Lucy and the dating game and for the aliens to see. So if they're there and they're paying attention, they already know where we are.
Yeah, for sure.
That means the only chance we really have is to build up as fast as we can and get ready in case one of those 300 million planets turns out to host a civilization similar to ours, but much in advance of it.
Yeah, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if they're not already here, man. Like honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so another CC wants to know dogs in space ? Just basically, I guess she means can you bring dogs in space or like I don't.
Well, right now, the only dogs in space I know is the very first mammal in space, very first animal in space was a dog. It was actually a stray that they picked up on the street.
That's crazy.
I mean, when we're in early days, and obviously going to the International Space Station, you're not going to bring a dog. So that'd be like taking a dog to your Alaska work platform or something like that.
It'd be so annoying.
It's not a good idea.
I'm not a dog person. That'd be so annoying. I feel like you'd have to babysit a dog in space. It'd be crazy.
If you sit and you look at if you look at that background behind you, that is a place for people to live. Okay, and you might not want to allow dogs at first, but at least if you're coming from a Western tradition that the dogs are so strongly associated with humans, that I can't imagine that given time and development and in a large, nice place to live, that couldn't include dogs and cats and probably stay away from ferrets and iguana.
That's funny. Jake wants to know: do they bang in space? That was his question. Do they have sex in space? Was his question basically?
No, nobody has owned up to it.
They haven't owned up to it. That's hilarious.
I think they have a pretty good idea of what would happen to their astronauting careers should they let a cat out of the bag. However, it must be said that there was one shuttle flight, which I believe, if I've got this right, a newly married couple went on. They're both astronauts on the same mission. And you could get a little bit of privacy in the mid-deck area on the shuttle. Okay, so bring your own conclusions to those two facts.
That was the most popular question. Everybody was commenting underneath that. Ask this. So it was literally everybody. That was the most.
And let me bring up one other issue that brings up is there are a couple of companies gearing up to start doing tourist flights. And you can bet your absolute bottom dollar that some of those people will be couples.
Yeah, that's
flights.
super true. Matthew wants to know why they give blankets to astronauts after they land. That was kind of a good question.
He's probably thinking of the when coming back on the Soyuz and landing in Kazakhstan. I don't know for sure, but the most likely reason is it's cold.
That was a good point, man. Someone he also asked him. Matthew also asked if is the world flat?
No, the world is not flat. We have mountains of evidence to prove without any doubt whatsoever that it is round.
Let's see. You got a bunch of questions. A couple people asked ask him why the Earth isn't huge, and in the picture you're taken from the moon. Like 2 people asked that.
I'm sorry, what was that question again?
I'm gonna paraphrase it more or less. They wanted to know why the picture from of Earth from the moon, what the Earth wasn't bigger in it. They wanted to, it seemed like it was tiny from their perspective. 2 people asked that.
Oh well, it's because the moon is 250,000 miles away. As you look at something, as it gets farther and farther from you, it looks smaller and smaller. So the size, the perceptual size it is just a function of how far away it is.
Yeah, that's super real. Ernesto wanted to know, or he just basically put, nobody ever went to the moon. It's all fake. Like, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I talked to one of the guys that got out and walked around on the moon, Buzz Aldrin. So I have to say that you're wrong.
I love that somebody that worked with NASA just said that. Like, I hate when I hear shit like that, man. Like,
this is important. I was a contractor at NASA. I was never a civil servant, never a government employee.
Still counts.
Yeah.
Okay. Another person asked about aliens. We already kind of covered that, though. I know a few. Okay, so I'm just gonna read these. Steve said, I know a few years ago they announced we'd be returning to the moon soon and it potentially becoming a halfway point for Mars. Is that still on track after the pandemic, you think?
The pandemic doesn't seem to have slowed things down a little bit, but other than that, doesn't seem to have made any big change. The Artemis program, which is what he's talking about, is going to the moon and then to Mars, is getting a lot of funding and it's got a lot of support. I'm not a huge fan of the Mars moon thing that's been going on for many years. But they're injecting some commercial some of the things that might have been done in the Apollo era by a government, a simple government contract. You do it and we own the stuff. Is making way for a sort of the idea is you don't so much do missions and these things as you create industries. And if you create an industry, then you can, that builds lunar landers, then you can land as long as it's profitable. If you just have a mission, you do it once and it's over, then that's what happened to Apollo. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, Apollo was just amazing. In 8 years, they went from nothing practically to landing a guy on the moon, a couple of guys on the moon.
That's true.
In 8 years. That's just absolutely astounding. And then the whole thing just went away.
Yeah.
There was not any Apollo hardware or even the designs, not maybe some of the designs here and there, that the current stuff lays its back to Apollo. It was a one-shot, and it was meant to be a one-shot. The real reason that we went to the moon was not because Kennedy was enamored with the moon, but to show the world that the American way of doing things, the Western way of doing things, was superior to the Soviet way of doing things. And
that is true.
They chose a race that they could win, and then they won it.
Yeah, America's better at everything.
And they put everything away because they did what they wanted to do. Right.
That's crazy to think about, actually. This question's from Randall. Seeing as how the Colonial Space Pipeline was just recently attacked with ransomware cyber attack, how likely is it that group could hack NASA? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not a security expert on anti-trust imagination. NASA and the other government computers are under constant attack all the time, every single day, over and over and over again. So, and every once in a while, I mean, it's been a while, but some years back, I seem to remember that some NASA web portal got hacked, and they put up some obnoxious statement for a few hours until it got fixed. I don't remember any incidents of ransomware with NASA, but I'm not an expert in the field.
No, I love the honesty on that. This one, Damien asks, "What do farts sound like in space?"
Well, if you're inside the International Space Station, I'm pretty sure they sound almost exactly the same. If you are out without a suit, they don't sound like anything because you're dead. If you're out in an EVA, then the sound is just going to get mixed in with all the noises of the fans and the pumps and all the other stuff going on.
I like how seriously you took that. And then we have another question about sex in space. It sounds like Eric wants to know. Just recently, news came out about aliens and humans wouldn't be compatible to have sex. Is this true that we live in a period where we could not only have sex with aliens, but we could kill them as well? I don't necessarily know what that question is, but it was like.
It's a stupid question. I think that's enough.
That's so funny. That's so funny, man. I like your answer better than the question. That's funny, man. This one's, I don't even know what it means. I'm kind of an idiot, but Adam wants to know, would reverse polarity of magnetism, I can't even say the word magnetism, work in zero gravity environment? Like, what is, I'm too dumb to even understand that question, really.
I guess he's talking, do magnets work in space? And yeah, they do.
That's funny, man. Okay, so let's see if we have, I just want to add, that one doesn't know much. I don't know if you're, that one's already in. Yeah, we'll go back to, I don't know, let's talk about a little bit about your past, I guess, man. So I guess, what was your business in like connection with like NASA, I guess, and like what, we'll start there and then I'll go, I'll just ask my questions, I guess.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
More or less, what was your exact relationship with NASA? Like to like a layman like myself or like listeners listening, like dumb it down a little bit. To
I was an on-site contractor. I worked in the same buildings as the civil servants to first approximation, and I worked for various companies and educational institutions. I worked for San Jose State University. I worked for UC Santa Cruz. I worked for a number of commercial companies, but always they pay the company or whatever, or educational institution I was in, and I go to NASA and do NASA's work.
Cool. No, that's awesome. Yeah.
So I got to interact with some of the smartest and greatest people in the world. NASA Ames Research Center is a fantastic place. They do all kinds of really, really good work. And I did it for 39 years. I don't regret a minute of it.
Cool, man. What was it like meeting Buzz Aldrin? That dude's a hero. I mean,
he's a great guy. I mean, he's still, I think he's well into his 90s, and he's still completely full of energy and sometimes he kind of goes a little bit off the deep end, but yeah, he's a good guy. I like him.
Yeah, I imagine you have to be pretty intense to be one of the first guys on the moon,
Yeah.
Probably have to be an intense person, man. Like,
well, he's also a 100% expert in orbital dynamics. He's the guy that discovered, if I got this right, that you can set up a cycler between the Earth and Mars, so that with.
My friends at CBD Direct have given you a no-excuse option to try the highest quality plant-based medicine at the absolute lowest cost. Tinctures, gummies, pet chews that you're using to calm anxiety, support better sleep, and just live better are available for up to 80% below most CBD products available. That includes the cost of your membership. Go to the website, link in the description, use my link to get a free tincture. Trust me, the value and price are too good to pass on. You'll be glad you joined the club.
Not a whole lot of fuel. As you come in near Earth, you can whip around Earth and get sent out, and you'll head in the right direction to Mars if you set everything up right, which is a pretty sophisticated thing to pull off. He's the real deal.
No, it's crazy, man. Like I saw that one interview like where somebody was like trying to accuse him of never going to the moon. He just like punched him in the face, and it was hilarious to see like an old dude just like punch a dude in the face. Like it was I like died, man. That was like crazy. And my grandfather helped build the shuttle that went to the moon. I'm from St. Louis, and like a lot of St. Louis companies built the aircraft that went to, or the spacecraft, I guess, that went to the moon, and like the ones that tested the pigs and stuff, and like so it annoys me when people tell me that's not that didn't happen because my grandfather like helped to build this shuttle. You know what I mean? So like discredits like human innovation. That kind of pisses me off when I hear people say that as well. You know, it's like that Ancient Alien show where they just attribute every human like accomplishment to aliens. Like how these pyramids get built, like oh aliens. You know, it's like it takes away from like how great human beings are. You know.
Well, they used to have that about, and I think I have this right. Easter Island, they have those big statues, and
Yeah.
a lot of them are falling over. And the scientists and the anthropologists were trying to figure out how they got put up. And they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure it out. People came up with books and said, "Oh, it had to be aliens." People who lived there got tired of listening to this nonsense and put one of them up because they knew how to do it.
That's hilarious.
They knew how to do it the whole time, and they just wanted to watch these fools, mill about and chase their tiles and have no idea what was going on. At least that's the story I heard.
That's funny. Yeah, I think my cell phone impresses me more technologically than a pyramid. You know, I mean, I think the blocks are big or whatever, but it's like my cell phone. I have no idea how it works. You know what I mean? I'm like, I think like to that degree. Well, so where do you see space going? Like from here, you said like tourism a little bit, and where do you see it like the future of space right now? Like with China landing on Mars and America landing on Mars. I mean, you're gonna almost see. I don't know. It's interesting right now.
Well, this is a golden era of rocketry development. Rockets is how you have to get to space.
Yeah.
And there has never been a better time than today. There were 6 months ago, and the probably numbers about the same, there were over 100 companies building rockets of one kind or another. And several of them were launching. And just you have a tremendous amount of activity. The price of sending a kilogram into space has dropped from $20,000 in the shuttle era down to about $1,400 today with the Falcon Heavy. And if the SpaceX Starship does something reasonably close to what it's advertised to do, we'll be looking at prices in the couple $100 per kilogram range.
Wow.
So if your basic transportation gets 2-3 orders of magnitude cheaper, it's going to be a whole lot easier to do what we need to do. We may even get into a situation where we have so many flights, we have to look at the environmental problems with the atmosphere. Right now, we don't fly very much. We fly less than 100 times a year. Flying, to space. Obviously, airliners do a lot more of that. And so it's not a big problem. I mean, these launches, they do alter the atmosphere, but there's not a lot of it. Doesn't matter too much. However, if we are successful, if we do what we want to do, which is to have thousands and thousands of flights and build space solar power satellites and have tourists going up by the hundreds, by the thousands, and settling the moon and settling Mars and building giant spacecraft along the lines of the one in my background to go live in, well, then we're going to have to start worrying about the atmosphere. Because the atmosphere is the single most important thing in the universe, period. And the reason why I say that is if we didn't have the atmosphere, we'd all be dead, every single one of us within 5 minutes.
Wow, 5 minutes. That's terrifying.
So
that's
we
crazy.
do not want to mess with the atmosphere unless you know what you're doing.
No, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, you just gave me the worst visual of my entire life thinking about not having an atmosphere for 5 minutes. That'd be crazy. Just like, no, yeah, that's sucking on life. No, the thing behind you looks awesome. Like, I like the concept of that. And you've worked on a lot of things like designs like that too, haven't you? You worked on a lot of like just like the spinning designs to keep like artificial gravity like in space type thing.
Yeah, I've done a few of them. There was Lewis 1 was the first one, and then Kalpana 1, Kalpana 2, and Kalpana 3. They're all named after Kalpana Chawla. Kalpana Chawla was on the orbiter Columbia when it came down over Texas and got torn to pieces. And she also was in the office next to mine for several years. And we weren't, quite close friends or anything, but we were, colleagues, and we worked together and we did stuff. And it was a really sad day, the day that she died. And so, sort of in homage to her, I named my space settlement designs after her. Cool. I hope that's okay with her.
No, that's really cool, man. It's nice. That's a nice gesture, man. Like, What would you say got you into this originally? Like, I mean, was it like as a child or as a young adult, or like what kind of got you into all this like kind of thinking? Like,
I know exactly. Okay, I used to be a musician,
hmm,
professional musician, not particularly successful, but I did pay the rent and the food most of the time. And my housemate got a job cleaning out a garage, somebody's garage. And in there, they found a huge stack of coevolutionary quarterlies. Now, coevolutionary quarterlies, Stuart Brandt ran it, and he's the guy that did the Whole Earth catalog, which you probably remember, but maybe the audience. It was a sort of Woodstock for people who wanted to build things, publication. And in that stack of coevolutionary quarterlies, one would come out for 4 times a year, there was one on Gerard O'Neill's space colony concepts. And I had gone back to school, so I wasn't playing music anymore, or not for pay anyways, which didn't change things a whole lot. But I read it while I was going to UC Santa Cruz, studying computer and information science, and I was just electrified. This was great, and it was talking about something very much like you're seeing in the background here, but bigger, much bigger, which is actually one of the problems with it. And so I just thought this was great. And then I was sitting in the halls of UCSC, I was ranting and raving about space settlement, and this big guy comes up and taps you on the shoulder and said, "You want to go work for NASA?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And it turned out that he got the signing bonus, and they got me in. Of course, there was a little bit of misdirection. When I went to NASA to work with them, it wasn't they didn't give me a position working on spacecraft. I was working on aircraft. But I figured, get in the right place, you're getting the right. And I did do a lot of spacecraft work by the time I left there. And so that was exactly the genesis. It was a piece of luck and a housemate that needed a few bucks and had to do an odd job.
that's crazy, man. So you went from you play guitar and sing or something? Is that what you?
Yeah.
You
Actually,
seem
the
like
last
that,
band I was in, I mostly played bass, but I also played saxophone and guitar.
No, that's cool, man. Like, I know you're probably around in like a fun time for music more so. It's like music didn't make much money in my generation like that. Everybody was like downloading it and stuff. Like when I was like in my 20s and stuff. So you're probably in a way better. Yeah, like 70s were probably like a way better time like for music probably to make money and stuff. It seemed like
Still, I mean, I remember when I went to Berklee College of Music and they said 95% of all albums lose money.
Oh, I bet. No, I
Of the remaining 5%, 1% makes money. And of that 1% that makes money, 95% are by established artists.
Huh.
In other words, if you're not an established artist, your chances of getting anywhere are slim. And this is about 1975.
Yeah,
Music is a tough business.
Yeah, I was talking to a dude in a pretty successful band yesterday, and like he told me that basically 60,000 songs are uploaded to Spotify and Apple, and that's a day right now.
Yeah.
A day, 60,000 songs. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That is nuts. Like, that's funny. You went from music to that, though. That's interesting. I think like a lot that music probably draws that kind of thinker and creative person. Like like any kind of like an artist is probably drawn to NASA like tenfold. It's like I feel like any kind of like. Because you have to be creative. I mean, science is creative. It's like a, I don't know. It's interesting that like it was like an art, like you did art first, and then kind of went to that. Like
well, there's a connection between music and science and mathematics and so forth. A lot of the really big time physicists of the 20s and 30s and 40s were accomplished musicians, like really good.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Like nearly concert quality classical guitar, violinists and stuff like that.
I never knew that. That's crazy. Yeah. That makes sense though. I mean, like I think like I don't know, it just makes sense. The kind of instruments draws. I don't know. Art and science are really close. You almost have to like. I think Steve Jobs is like an artist and a scientist type. Even though he's just a salesman, but I think like he's still. I think he was all that. I think you can be that, man. It's interesting. Do you think I was reading the C.S. Lewis book and like it talked about it named like Mars, like it called it something else, but like they were saying like. And it could have been a work of fiction, clearly, but they're saying that basically that Mars was once living. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, Mars, like, once is like a living planet with a bunch of life, and then like the poles die or whatever, the core died or whatever. I don't know, something like that. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not an expert on Mars, but there may have been a period where there were some microbes living on Mars, or maybe in Mars. And there may actually still be microbes there today, but that's probably about it.
Yeah.
And there's no particular, it's actually a very, very interesting question is there life on Mars now?
Yeah.
Go up?
That is
because the thing is, if you send astronauts up to look for life, they are going to shed DNA and RNA and proteins and tissues and stuff all over the place. It's going to be really hard to keep the place clean. So it's going to be really difficult to prove it. But if it turns out that there is extant life on Mars and that life was not derived from Earth and Earth was not derived from it, that is an epochal discovery. Because that tells us that there's likely a lot of life in the universe, in the galaxy. Remember those 300 million planets? Maybe if 2 or 3% of them create spacefaring civilizations, it's huge. It's hundreds of thousands, millions of such species.
That's crazy to think about, man. Like,
you'll certainly get the Nobel Prize if you can prove it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Like, exoplanets are kind of interesting too. Like, it looks like everything was like on a cycle. Like to me, sometimes like it looks like everything was in a cycle, and all these planets are like sucked into their stars. Like almost like the sun is pulling Earth into it, kind of too. What do you think about that? Like exoplanets and like the stars pulling planets into them. Like you think it's gonna happen to Earth more or less?
Well, all planets and moons and stars attract each other gravitationally.
Yeah. So do you think the mass of the sun will absorb Earth eventually, or? I think that's sometimes like.
I'm not. My understanding is that at some point, if our sun makes the same trajectory as most other suns, that there's a place where it will get. I don't know that the orbit is going to get a whole lot closer to the sun, but what will happen is the sun will get a lot bigger.
Yeah, the expansion
become a red giant and just envelope Earth. And by then, which is a very long time from now. But by then, we really have to be off planet, or we're all going to go away.
Yeah, I definitely think about that a lot. Like, it's got to be crazy. Like, do you think humans have rock hopped before, like gone to other planets before, like before documented time of like the space race in the early whatever, the early 50s or 60s, whatever? You don't think?
No.
Like,
It's too hard to do. There's no evidence of development of any technology even remotely good enough to get off the planet.
Yeah, I would almost.
We're not talking close judgment here. It's like way out of their range. I mean, come on, these guys use stone tools.
Yeah.
They're great stone tools, but they won't get to the moon.
No, for sure. They
won't get you to low Earth orbit.
Because I sometimes wonder if like high grade technology is easy to decompose of, and like if we've been here before, I don't have. You're right though. There's been zero evidence of this. so I mean, I think that's evidence is the strongest thing in science for sure. But I often wonder that, like how many times we've been here before, and like because stone would almost. I mean, our cars and phones and all this stuff would go away pretty fast, like within a couple hundred years. That's how I view it. I just don't know.
Concrete would be around for a good long time.
Yeah, the Roman concrete. I don't know if ours would be.
A lot of concrete.
Yeah, I don't know if ours would be, but Rome's would be. Like I have holes in my road every other week. It looks like here, like in the States, but Rome has like 1,000-year-old concrete still intact. It's like a bizarre accomplishment. But do you want to throw out any like kind of like promo or anything before we get out here? Like any kind of like social media or like any kind of like anything you write for some stuff and you publish some stuff, don't you? Like
well, I have a Facebook page, and I have a website with. Actually, if anybody's interested in this, if you go to space.alglobus.net, or just search for Al Globus space, or probably just Al Globus will work. Almost all the technical papers I've written are on that site. There's only a couple that are missing for one reason or another, having to do with the details of publishing things. So if you're interested in this stuff in space settlement, I would encourage you to go there and take a look around. There are hardcore technical papers, 50 pages of dense stuff. There are also articles written for the intelligent enthusiast, somebody who's interested in space and obviously knows how to read and so forth. That's something that you can do, and it's all free. Also, the other thing I might plug is I'm on the board of directors of the National Space Society, and if you're interested in perhaps helping out with developing space, you might consider joining. You might go to their website, just Google a National Space Society, and you'll find it easily enough. And it's a group of people. It's several thousand people who get together and do various activities around promoting space settlement and space development. And it's a good bunch of folks. We're doing some interesting stuff. And go over there and take a look. It'll be worth your while.
This episode is brought to you by Blum Loco. They're a family company. They make small batches of seasonings, salts, gourmet chocolates, and snack mixes. Go to blumloco.com, link in the description, and buy some stuff while you listen to this episode.